Hello everybody and welcome to the Endless Party.
Woohoo!
We're super happy you're here.
Yeah.
So.
Can't even express our gratitude.
No, we can't. Okay, anxiety is the great modern plague. And I have some statistics about it. So currently, anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the United States, and they affect over 40 million adults, or 19% of the population. 300 million people suffer from an anxiety disorder worldwide, and 30% of all adults will experience an anxiety disorder during some point in their life. Interestingly enough, women suffer more from anxiety than men, and 10 million Americans are on anxiety medication. This is a problem because worry is one of the most destructive of all human diseases.
Yep. I actually don't know the exact statistic when it comes to autoimmune disease, but a good number of autoimmune disease stems from
stress and worry.
Yep.
So
the plague of worry.
From the plague of worry. So we started this off, a little bit
grim.
But the good news is we have some principles.
That's the grim. We do have some principles to really help you. It's his mom.
Okay, we have some principles that can help you to combat worry and to rid the plague from your own life. You don't have to
take all the drugs.
No, and you don't have to be a victim of worry.
Yep.
I think I'll let Elijah go a little bit, and then I have a story about worry.
Ooh.
It's a good story.
You will.
I will.
So, first things first. We've talked about this before. It's live each day in a day-type compartment. And so what exactly does that mean? It means stop thinking about the future. Just live each day as if it were your last. And enjoy every moment. I think it was Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh said it best when he asked Mr. Christopher Robin,
"What day is it today?"
Yes, his dearest friend. And Christopher Robin replied to that question as, "It's today." And Winnie the Pooh responded with, "Ah, my favorite day." So I think we could all do very well to follow Winnie the Pooh's example and make today our favorite day. I think when we begin to start fretting and worrying about the future, that is when things creep in, like anxiety, like stress, like the horrible plague of worry. And so I would like to encourage all of us to just do the best we can each and every day. And ironically enough, that's the best way to prepare for the future, is do your best you can this day, and then the future will take care of itself.
There you go. I have a story. So there's two things we talk about on this podcast a lot. Number one is sports, but number one is our twins. Number two is sports. But right now I'm going to talk about number one. The twins. Our babies. So so during my pregnancy, it was, okay. So we had twins. They were identical twins. Monochorionic diamniotic, if we're going to get super medical here. Basically that means
they
shared a placenta, not amniotic sacs, but it put me at, it just is always classified as a high-risk pregnancy if you're pregnant with identical twins.
Yeah.
And so from the moment that we heard they were identical twins, everyone in the medical field and everyone around us, immediately said, "Hey, you have a high-risk pregnancy. There's a lot that could go wrong." And I, immediately that kind of puts some anxiety into, at least as me as mom, because I was like, oh my goodness, there's a lot that could go wrong. Mm-hmm. But in order for me to mentally make it through the months and months that I was pregnant, I had to take it day by day. And I had to do what I could do in that day, and I couldn't think about tomorrow. And the same was true, it did end up being a high-risk pregnancy. I got sick. Mm-hmm. And even when I had preeclampsia, it was all about the day. It wasn't about tomorrow. It's like, can I be healthy today? Mm-hmm. Can I, be pregnant and make the good choices for my body and my twins today? Yeah. And I think that really helped us to work through all the doctor's appointments. So interestingly enough, the doctors told us that they had a growth discrepancy, so they really thought that one twin was way smaller than the other. At another point, they thought they had a heart problem.
I also thought your cervix was too small.
So throughout the 7.5 months that I was pregnant, I think like every other week we were hit with some news that something could potentially be wrong. And mentally, I think we just couldn't, it just was too much.
Deal.
We just couldn't, all of that news just could have created a lot of anxiety. But I think Elijah and I just tried, we took it day by day.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you all know the old adage of an apple a day keeps the doctor away. If you didn't eat an apple for 365 days and then you tried to eat 365 apples,
you're probably going to go to the doctor.
You're going to end up at the hospital, right? And so that's what this experience was with us, is we decided that we were going to take each of the small bad, I don't even know how to say that.
Newses.
The bad newses?
I don't know.
Whenever we received bad news, we took it day by day. So for example, they told us that they thought one of our babies had a bicuspid heart valve, and really you're supposed to have a tricuspid. So that's a 2-channel or a 3-channel. You're supposed to have a 3-channel. So we decided, instead of starting to worry about it and fret over it, that we would just take it day by day, that we would reassure ourselves that everything was fine, that we would pray, that we would have that faith, and we moved forward. Instead of just eating all the bad newses at once, we took it day by day, and it made all the difference.
I think I wanted to, and the point of the story too is that I refused to let myself feel anxiety. I decided to take it day by day, and I refused to let anxiety be another reason that my babies were at risk, if that makes sense.
No, it makes
I knew if I was
sense.
really stressed and really anxious, then my body would probably, react even worse to the pregnancy. And so that was I wasn't anxious about being anxious, I was just very mindful, and then I practiced a lot of things to help me calm that anxiety. And I think it was really useful. And interestingly enough, our babies have perfect bills of health. They were both born at the exact same birth weight. Their hearts are great. Everything about them is healthy, and they're perfect little girls. So,
no, I agree, and I think to add to that, so as Meg expressed, she got really sick. She got preeclamptic, and that was a battle in and of itself. But what was kind of interesting to me to watch her example through this experience when it came to pain and really not worrying about what was going to happen. And she had all the reason to worry. She was sick. She was about to have 2 babies. They were coming early. She didn't know if she was going to be able to deliver these twins naturally or if she had to go into an emergency C-section. There was a lot to worry about. But what was so cool is that she took it as day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute. And I just think about it with anybody. Anybody can go through heartache and pain just for today. Anybody can deal with suffering. Anybody can endure. They can persist just for today. And I would even say on the flip side of that, you can love, you can be kind, you can be patient just for today. When you start to look at your lifetime, that's when things become a bit worrisome.
Even for us.
Even for us. Just start thinking about today. I mean, and the same is true when we brought our baby girls home. Those first 10 days were so hard. And I think that's actually where I made a mistake. I can't speak for Meg here. But I started to think, I will never sleep again.
Oh, yeah.
And, it caused more stress. It caused more worry. Instead of just being you know what? I can go without sleep just for today. Just today. And it would have saved me probably a lot of worry and stress, because I was worried about these babies. I was worried about Meg recovering from her C-section. I was worried about myself being able to be a good father and husband and provide for this little family of 4. And instead of worrying about that, I should have just done everything I could to help my wife, done everything I could to help my babies, just for today. So I would say we should all adopt the motto, just for today.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think another thing I wanted to talk about, so we're talking about living in the today, and we kind of talked about how you don't think about the tomorrow when you're in the today.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to talk about how you don't think about the yesterday.
Oh, 100%.
So this podcast is inspired from the book How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. It's a Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, he wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People.
He's a fantastic author.
Yep.
And what I love about him is his principles. I think when did he write this book? I don't know. I can't tell.
Ages ago.
I can't tell you the exact date, but these principles have been utilized for, I think, almost 100 years at this point.
Probably.
So, anyways, great book if you want to read it. But one of his phrases is, "Don't saw sawdust."
Mm-hmm. Meaning, don't cry over spilt milk. Don't fret over things that have already happened, that are in the past.
He explains that the past will bury its dead, so you don't need to too.
Yes. I mean, I can even think back to past conversations I had, or past actions, foolish actions, I might add.
Yes.
And look on them with regret, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
What is that going to profit me or benefit anybody or myself in the present or the future? How is that going to help me progress through this life if I continue to dwell and fret over the things that I did wrong?
The people
years
that
ago?
have hurt you, the bad situations you were in.
Well, I mean, a prime example of this, it's like, in the scriptures it says, even though your sins may be as scarlet, they shall be white as snow through the Savior Jesus Christ. He forgets your mistakes as soon as you seek repentance and as soon as you seek forgiveness for him. So if God Almighty can forgive you, why can't you forgive yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And so my whole thing is this: don't dwell on past mistakes or misfortunes or missteps. Move forward and be better and live just like we said, for today.
Yes. Elijah and I are actually working on this. I think I actually am, especially. We kind of have this inside joke. So one time we were having the worst day, and I was like, you know what? Let's end the day with some Chinese food.
Oh, yeah.
We love Chinese food. I'm like, we never go out to eat. As you know, we're a baby podcast. So you can guess about how much money we're making in this current stage. But
all the dollars.
All the dollars. But anyways, so I'm like, you know what? Let's do something special. Let's get some Chinese food. So we go, and it's late.
It's probably the biggest regret of my life.
It is the biggest regret of mine too. So we order it online, and we're so excited to eat this Chinese food.
I go out because Meg stays home with the babies.
It's been a day, and we're just ready to
eat our Chinese food.
Eat some comfort food, And
chill with each other.
We bring it back, and it is nasty.
It is the most
It is
rancid
the worst Chinese food. And we paid money for that, okay? And it's kind of funny because I feel like sometimes if we're going down a spiral of negativity or thinking about the past, one of us will bring up, oh, do you remember that Chinese food? Because it makes us laugh, and it also helps us to stop in the moment and realize,
this is
what we're doing. There's no reason to live in the past. There's no reason to dwell on the fact that Chinese food was disgusting.
So bad.
And to this day, it's funny because it's still so gross.
Oh, I agree. And it's it's actually interesting because that reminds me of another story. And it's the forest giant. Remember?
Yes.
I think you should tell this story.
About the trees.
About the tree.
Okay, so there's this tree on a mountain. And this tree is just such a boss. It gets hit with lightning 15 times. And then it gets avalanche. It lives through an avalanche 3 or 4 times. So this tree is just the tree of all trees. It's honestly the tree of life. And
pretty much.
But then one day, little teeny tiny bugs start to infest the tree. These teeny tiny beetles, and the tree dies.
Mm-hmm. And so, what does that mean for us? Don't let petty little beetles get you down. Just like our little Chinese food tiff. Unless you use it as a way to deter you from stopping worry. I mean, that's what we really strive to do when we bring up the Chinese food.
Yes.
Just be okay, this isn't that big of a deal. Let's move on. But don't let small, petty things deter you. And I think there's a quote. It says, life is too short to be little.
Yes.
And so it just means don't let little things bother you. Excuse me. Don't let the small and petty things get you down or bring you the stress and anxiety of worry.
I think this is a great time for you to say the thing that the President Eisenhower said.
Oh. Okay, this is General Eisenhower.
Oh,
I don't know.
General Eisenhower.
I'm not sure if he was the president
I actually don't know.
at one point,
I don't know the
but
fact.
this was General Eisenhower.
General Eisenhower.
And he just said, I never waste a minute thinking about people I don't like.
It's one of those Beatles, you know?
Let me say that again.
It's really good.
General Eisenhower says, I never waste a minute thinking about people I do not like.
So if you're out there, Steve, just kidding. No, just kidding.
No, but seriously, like, why would you waste your time on thinking about people that have wronged you or belittled you or bring you down or that are your enemies? It's not worth your time.
Don't let the past trouble you. This kind of reminds me of the podcast we did last time, our resentment podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, that's a sure way to rid your heart of worry, too.
Well, I think a prime example, too. Back to our good old reliable Jesus. He says in the Bible that you should love your enemies, that you should bless them that curse you, be good to those that hate you. And why? It's not even for your enemies' sake. Of course, it benefits them as well. But it's more so for your sake, to rid yourself of resentment, rid yourself of anxiety, rid yourself of, Meg put it very eloquently at the beginning of this podcast, rid yourself of the modern plague. Okay? So don't dwell on thinking about people you don't like.
No. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the future. Live in the today.
Live in today.
Yes.
So good.
So good.
So good. My gosh. Okay, this leads me into another topic. I want to ask you all this question. Would you sell what you have for $1 million? And I'm not saying your material possessions. I think about it like this. Would you sell your eyesight for $1 million? What about your left leg? What about your right arm? What about your good health? Maybe we'll even put it higher than that. Would you sell your eyesight for $1 billion?
No.
No. So why are we so hell-bent on worrying about what we do not have when we should be very grateful for what we do have? It's actually interesting. So the great Napoleon, he had everything that life could offer. He had power, he had fame, he had riches, he had glory. And yet he declared, I have never been happy 6 days in my life. And then on the flip side, the wonderful angelic woman Helen Keller, who was blind, deaf, and dumb, declared, excuse me, I have to read it. I have found life to be so beautiful.
That's inspiring.
Well, I mean, it just goes back to this understanding that it's like, you can really just cry and think your lot is so hard, or you can look around and realize how blessed you actually are. Kind of goes to, there's like this old saying, it's like, I had the blues because I had no shoes until one day on the street I met a man with no feet. It's like, don't think your lot is hard. Just understand and realize that you have much to be thankful for.
This has actually been a cure to one of the worries that Elijah and I have been striving to eliminate from our lives for about a year and a half now. There has been a daily opportunity for us to really worry and to like kind of feel
fret
and to feel the weight of the world, to feel there's been an event in our life that's been transpiring for a while now, and the way that I've turned it in my head is that I have said, you know what, instead of being upset that this is happening, I'm grateful that it's happening. I'm grateful that I'm in this situation, and in doing so, it has made we don't worry about the situation anymore.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's definitely on our radar and we still talk about it, but there isn't that anxiety associated with it. And I feel like you and I felt that anxiety for a year.
100%.
And then at the year mark, you're like, we both were like, I can't live with this anxiety anymore. I'm going to choose to not. And so for these last 6 months, it's been
bliss.
It's been bliss. And honestly, we're grateful for the lot we have.
Well,
and that opportunity it's brought us.
Well, I think that goes hand in hand with another way to combat worry, and that's take action. And my good old wife right here, bless her heart. So like we said, we were in this situation for now a year and a half where we could have fretted and just cried and cried and cried about how life was so unfair. But instead, she was actually the one that said, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to let this bother me anymore. I'm not going to let this dictate how I'm going to run my life. And so she's like, we need to start everything. We need to start your businesses. We need to start my businesses. We need to work together to, like, accomplish our goals. And finally, we started to take action. Never once do I think about this opportunity that is just waiting for us in the distance that everybody says is going to happen tomorrow. Another reason, living today, not tomorrow. But instead, we just work on our businesses, we work on our goals, we work on our dreams. We don't have time to worry.
And we take it day by day. We do all that we can do that we know how to do in the day.
Yeah. Like, I would say do so much good each and every day that you don't have time to worry. And so Tennyson wrote, I must lose myself in action, lest I wither in despair. And I think that's a good example of this. It's like we literally were, in a very real sense, withering in despair because we thought everything was against us.
So many unnecessary tears and like arguments and anger and resentment. It was so unnecessary.
It was 100%. Like,
it was our own
Yeah, it was self-inflicted.
Self-inflicted suffering.
And here, I will share this story too. It was actually, there was this family fleeing Germany during World War II, and the head of the household was a very old man, and he was going across trying to get out of Germany at all costs. But finally they got to the point, this family, and he said, I'm done. I can't take any more steps. I'm like worn to the bone. And his daughter, who happened to have a baby at the time, said, Father, like, we need to go. Like, you got to step up. Like, let's keep moving. And he just was like, no, I'm done. This is where I call it quits. She goes, no, you don't understand. It's your turn to carry the baby. And immediately, this man hopped up, grabbed the baby, and kept trekking forward. And they eventually made it out of Germany. What's interesting, though, is like this man, when he just thought of his own frailties and his own weakness, he couldn't move another step. But as soon as he thought of somebody else's hardship, that this baby was going to have to be carried by somebody else other than himself, he immediately found the strength within himself to keep moving forward and progress. And I think that is like a huge adage, even in our own family, in our own life. When we really started to change, one, Meg made that decision, but two, we also expected our baby girls to come. Mm-hmm. And we knew that they were going to come early, so we really worked hard to get things started so that when we were here, we could focus on the little girls. And it honestly probably propelled us forward in a more aggressive and tenacious manner because we thought of our little girls instead of just ourselves.
Yeah, and every day we're trying to create the best life we can for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was what was so inspiring about it. It's like, I no longer was working just for myself or just for Meg. I was working for our family, you know, and that in and of itself has made us more determined to work harder, to progress more, and to just be better people.
Yeah. I think one of the best ways to take action is to fill your mind with faith. And something that I don't agree with is people sometimes refer to faith as like it's just something you have or you don't. Faith is action. Mm-hmm. It's action.
It's a verb.
It is a verb. And it takes work to replace all of your fear with faith. Mm-hmm. And what's so interesting is in I think in How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, but also Power of Positive Thinking, it expresses that, like, doubt and fear is one of the strongest emotions you can ever feel. Like, doubt is huge. But the only thing that is greater than doubt, that can overcome it, that is a stronger emotion that can develop, is faith. You can torch the seeds of doubt with faith.
Yeah.
And faith power works wonders. That's something that I repeat to myself every day. And I know it does. And what's amazing is, I think too, like, a lot of times, you know, people think, oh, like, I'll just have faith. And then I think sometimes we also mistake faith with, like, instant gratification. It's like, oh, if I exercise faith today, I'll see the results today. But it's like, no, you have to choose to have faith every day. And then you watch as all of your days of faith add up into, like, whatever you want to transpire to happen. But faith power does work wonders.
Yeah.
I know it does.
No, I agree. It's actually interesting. So my freshman year of high school, I thought I could win the state championship, but I wasn't certain. And then I ended up racing the defending state champion, in a race I think a month and a half before the state championship. And I only lost to him by like 0.08 of a second. Barely lost to him. And so I went up to my dad after that race and I said, hey, like, I think I could really win the state championship. And he was like, yeah, after that performance, absolutely you could win the state championship. Crazy thing enough, I actually went to my head coach and my assistant coach and said the same thing. One of them told me it was all on luck, and the other one told me I should reassess my goals and set my sights on a state championship, maybe my sophomore or junior year. And my dad was like, sorry for the language, but he said, to hell with that. You can win a state championship this year. And so all my doubt wasn't expelled because I just believed that I could win the state championship. That was a necessary factor. I had to believe in myself. But what I did in preparation for that state championship was grind. I worked. I did everything I possibly could so that when I stepped up on that starting line, I could go to God and say, I have left no stone unturned. I have done everything that I possibly could to prepare for this race. If I am meant to win it, like, so be it, but it's in thy hands now. I ended up winning the state championship, and I think about that, and it's like faith power works miracles. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And that was a miracle in itself. But I didn't just sit idly by and just say, like, I have the faith that I will win. No, like, I actually put the work to back up that faith. And I think that's what faith really is that you believe that you can achieve something, but then you don't just sit idly by and wait for it to happen. You do everything in your power to make it happen. And then God makes up the rest.
Yeah, I think we can both agree, like, the best races we had are the ones where, one, we took action and we had this, like, unshakable faith that it was ours for the winning.
Mm-hmm.
But it was paired with a ton of action in the form of work and...
I mean, look at this, like, so you ran the 800, 2 laps.
Mm-hmm.
How many miles did you
goodness.
run in preparation for the 800 meters,
Hundreds.
which is half a mile?
Hundreds.
Yeah. Like, I can even look back. I did the mile, the 5K, and the 10K.
You ran thousands.
I ran thousands of miles to run 1 mile.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what I don't think people understand about faith. And I think a lot of people just misrepresent. You need to put in thousands of miles to experience the joy of winning the 1 mile race.
Yeah.
And that's how it is in life.
Yes.
You have to put in thousands of hours of work, thousands of hours of discipline and persistence to see just a small glimmer of the success that you were envisioning. And then here's the kicker. God makes up the difference.
Always.
Those thousands of hours will never, ever go unnoticed or what's the word?
I know what you're saying, like, for granted, basically.
They will never, like, God will bless your life for putting that work forward, for exercising your faith. And that's what I think the scriptures say too. It's not just sit on the couch faith.
No.
Exercise your faith. Like, put it to action.
Yes.
And I think that's what's so cool about it.
Yeah. So if you're worried and scared, well, do something.
Mm-hmm.
Get up and do something.
Yeah,
Take action.
take action. There's only one thing I had left.
Okay.
Did you have anything you wanted to add? So the one thing I had left is this simple phrase, and it's don't worry, just live right. And the reason I say that is if you're a person of honesty, if you're a kind person, if you're a person of integrity, if you are living right, you have nothing to fear because you have nothing to hide. So why worry? Why stress? Why fret? And it's actually interesting, I even think back to the scriptures too. It says, give us this day our daily bread. He doesn't say our weekly bread, our monthly bread. It's like, just do what you can today. And so long as you live right, you have no need to fear.
I love that.
That's what we have.
I think it's a perfect end to this podcast.
Perfect. Just like my beautiful wife.
Wow.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. If you
thank
enjoyed this podcast episode, smash that like button. Hit the subscribe.
Leave us a comment. We want to hear from
Yeah.
you. Really,
Give us
I'm
a
so
book
interested to know
recommendation.
who you people are.
Yeah, give us a recommendation. Give us a shout out.
Whatever.
Share it with your friends.
We'd love to hear from you.
We would, absolutely. So thank you again for tuning in.
Yes.
Till next time.
Peace.